What's up, this is BT, and you're watching LimeWire Music Blog. You know, honestly, this record sort of was, the birthing process to this record was during an extremely turbulent personal period of my life, and on that level alone, I'm just proud of its existence. You know, there are many points in the process that could have that would have shut down a mere mortal, I think. So I'm just really proud that it exists, and I'm also proud of what it stands for and how honest it is too. You know, and there's a lot of sort of technical hurdles and things that I wanted to accomplish on this record, things that I learned from my last full-length album, you know, This Binary Universe, and production techniques and things that I wanted to further expound upon. But just in terms of how personal of a body of work it is, I'm really proud of it. Approximately a third to half of this record was written in a small house by the sea in a small town called Yankalilla in Australia, and I probably wrote 20 pieces of music there, 4 or 5 which made the final version of the album, and that was sort of the beginning of it. That was the beginning of the feeling that is this record. And then I wrote the next third of it living in Leidschapline when I was on tour with Tice, and then the rest of it at home. And so it really is sort of in thirds, but there were things that I started to realize. I realized very early on that it was a double album because the songs were, I mean, like, the compositional form I use often is very sort of protracted, and because I'm lucky enough to have really cool, open-minded fans that want to listen to a piece of music for 10 minutes, I feel like I can really spread out and don't have to adhere to, you know, kind of traditional song structure, even when, you know, for all intents and purposes, some of these are, you know, more traditional, I guess, songs, you know, they have verses and chorus and bridge and so on and so forth. And so I realized that really early on it was going to be a double record. And then sort of, it's like a puzzle, you know, things start to fit together. I realized after, and Forget Me is one of the songs that I wrote in Australia, and when I had this magical experience with my little girl coming into the studio and saying, "Can I sing on this one?" You know, I realized that was going to close out a side of this record, and so it's like a perfect finishing of the feeling of the first side of the record. And then similar thing with The Ghost in You, which is kind of like the exhale at the end of the whole album, and that's a song that, it's the first cover I've ever done, you know, of the classic psychedelic first track, which is daunting and scary enough as it is. I have no idea why I attempted that one, but I'm proud. I'm super proud of how it came out. So so it just, they all started to slot together and kind of make sense, you know. When I was done, there were pieces in the middle of both sides that my mastering engineer, Emily Lazar, recommended I flip, and it made the entire thing it made the entire thing make sense. She's pretty amazing. How this record was mastered too was just spectacular. A lot of it was reprinted to tape, and in fact printed to tape in sections. A song like Suddenly, The Emergency as well too, they were printed to half-inch. Well, actually, The Emergency was printed to 1-inch tape, running 15 IPS, you know, +9, old school tape, and the difference in sound of that track after being printed to tape is ridiculous. And then Suddenly we printed the choruses to tape, the verses were digitally mastered, and we spliced the whole thing together after the fact. Just a lot of work and thought put into this, so it's not something that, you know, congealed over a week. You know, it really took its time. Before he went on tour with the Police, and before they had even talked about doing that, I asked Stuart to come into the studio and to play some drums, and he was like, "Oh my God, I'd love to, but I'm so rusty," and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, "You're Stuart Copeland, are you kidding me?" Like, okay, you can be rusty. Let's go to the studio. So we went into the studio, and we had such a wonderful time. He played across a bunch of tracks on the record, and then there were ones that it really made sense on his playing, and so yeah, it was really exciting too, because I remember being a kid and listening to Peter Gabriel's So album, and reading the liner notes and seeing Stuart had just played the hi-hat part on Red Rain, and I thought, wow, is that ever cool? So some of that happened as well too. So he's an amazing guy and just literally one of the funniest people I've ever met. When I finished the record and kind of had said what I wanted to say, I myself went to every single person that's done a mix of any of this material and actually engaged with them. Most of them are friends, people like, you know, Armin van Buuren or Hammock, that actually hasn't come out yet, Marcus Chissel, like people that from all different kind of communities and walks of life, from indie bands to like the Shiny Toy Guns guys are doing a remake of one of these songs. We're doing such interesting stuff with this, and eventually this is all going to end up at one place. But right now, currently, there's 62 remixes and reinterpretations of songs from the record. The fun thing is sitting and looking at all of these songs that I've written across all of these records over 20 years. I have some really, really exciting music to play from all of the records. So I just started to get really, really excited when, you know, I started looking at all the music from all the different records, and to play these songs out, to play songs from Emotional Technology, This Binary Universe, you know, Moving in Still Life, ESCM, all the albums. And so we're gonna do something fun too. We're gonna do like a poll on Facebook and let my fans pick some of the set list and everything. And it's going to be a really, really special tour. I'm really excited to announce it. We're getting ready to do that soon.